Hey, 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 hey. Welcome back to another episode of Rags to Riches. Today we will be talking about parents who adopt. Last week we got into someone who was adopted. So we're turning around a little bit. And our special guest today is Troy. Hello, Troy. How are you doing today?
Sheila, I am well. First of all, I want to say thank you for allowing me to be a part of this, to be able to share my insight and my story. So I'm truly honored to be here, and I'm truly grateful for the opportunity.
And thank you for being a guest as well. So the first thing I will ask is when did you decide you wanted to adopt?
So I guess my wife and I, my wife and I have been married. September will be 32 years.
Ooh, congratulations.
Thank you. And so I met my wife in church, and a little background of a story on my wife. So I tried to talk to my wife, or date my wife, and she turned me down.
Oh
Three or four months,
no.
3 or 4 months later, I tried again, and I'm like, man, I can't get this woman off my mind. And so then this was the last time, the third time, and I'm like, okay, if she don't say yes this time, I'm done. But I said it the 2 other times, and so I asked her. I said, "When can you go out? Will you go out with me?" And she said, "When?" And when she said when, then I knew it was on. That was it.
It was off now.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, they say the third time's the
that's a
charm.
charm. Yes, and so we went out, first day April of '91. We got married September '91. So in September we have 32 years. Well,
That is awesome.
due to some health issues, my wife couldn't have children, and I knew that. I didn't. She didn't tell me that. Just God kind of revealed that to me. And
Absolutely.
so first, she was kind of reluctant because she didn't think that I would, want to be with her, because of that, and we started talking about, just the various ways to be able to have children. And our pastor talked because he has a son that's adopted. So we met. My wife started talking about adoption, and so I think once we got married in '91, and then we. The only child came was my son in '93, and they called us. We went through the process of everything, and it's funny, that you say this because you talk about this because Father's Day coming up,
Right.
and so I was raised a single parent. My mother raised two boys in Nashville. I remember living in the housing projects for a short time, and my father wasn't around. And so from about, I guess from about my son turned 18 to probably about 23 or something, I would get very emotional. And I'm not an emotional type person, but I get very emotional on Father's Day. And the reason being because I made a promise to God that if I had children, I would be in their lives. I wouldn't do like my
Right.
father did.
Right.
And so I said that I would be in their lives and I wanted to make an impact. And so at 18, I was able to fulfill that promise. So I would get emotional. And also, I told, I still should say this, and I probably will talk about this on my own social media. Normally every year I either make a post or do a video. My father, he was the blessing. And people say, well, he wasn't in your life. True. But he taught me the type of father I didn't want to be.
Correct.
And so it was, somebody said, everything is either a lesson or a blessing. So for him, it was a lesson and a blessing. And he taught me the type of father that I did want to be. Now we have a great relationship now. He apologized, said he went there. I don't hold grudges. So with dad,
Right.
that was in the past. So the future, let's move on and have a better relationship. So my wife and I, decided that we was going to adopt my son. All he knows is church. Now he's doing his own thing, but my son's a church baby. We adopted him when he was 3 months old, and now he'll be 30. Matter of fact, he'll be 30 on Monday. And so I thank God that I wasn't a statistic. He wasn't a statistic. I was able to fulfill that. and I just wanted to be there, show love, and show the opportunity. I even asked him when I was doing this podcast. I checked with him. I said, "Look, I'm gonna be on the podcast, and we're gonna be talking about adoption. You cool with that?" He said, "Yeah, I'm cool with that, Dad."
That's what's up. That's sweet.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, that's good. That your dad is part of your life now.
Mhm.
So, we always gotta remember to learn to forgive
Yeah,
and forget.
true.
Even though the forget part is kind of hard,
It is.
but
It is. Yeah. Uh, but my thing is, Sheila. Uh, there's a big push, a fight about abortion, and
mm,
I believe abortion is murder. I believe God is against us. This is my personal opinion. However, I do think the state should stay out of it. I think it should be them and the doctor. I can understand it if it's rape or incest.
right,
Not that I agree, but I can
right,
understand.
right.
And with that being said, is why don't they start putting laws to make adoption more affordable and more available?
True.
And so when people talking about pro-life, I'm not political. I'm principled. And what I mean by that is, if it's right, if I'm behind it. If it's right, wise, and true, I'm behind it. If it's wrong, I can't stand behind it. So let's make adoption more affordable and more available, especially in the African American community. And I think if we do that, then you that's a way that you won't have as much issue, I believe, with abortion. But we need to really look at that. And I can't remember the exact amount when we adopted my son, but it was expensive. Matter of fact, we were blessed in the end because the attorney ended up just doing the pro bono because we had owed some money. He ended up doing pro bono, and we was able to to get the adoption complete, and he just said it was a white guy too. He was just saying that he wanted to, just help, and so it was a blessing. But adoption is it's not a short process, and it's not a cheap process.
Right. So, what has your experience with adoption been like?
For me, it hadn't been anything, different than my son. He's our son. One of the things that me and my wife we agreed on that we would not allow him to go search his biological parents, until he turned 18. And so we agreed with that. We told him when he was adopted at an early age, and he said we didn't, but we did. We told him, and we never kept it. And we never kept it
Right.
from him or try to hide it from him. We never treated him, oh, you adopted, you not realize. So we never treated him like that. I've always treated him, as my blood son. It
Right.
was just he's adopted into the family.
Right. So, have he ever, before you guys ever told him that he was adopted, have he ever say, why I look different? Like, I don't look like you, Dad, or I don't look like you, Mom. Like, has he ever questioned that?
No, now sometimes he had conversation with his mom. Now I don't know if they had that conversation, but he never, uh, you know, he never had that question with me personally about that. And he may even could have had it with some of his friends, but no, I never had that conversation or that question never came up with him and I.
Okay. And have he ever tried to go out and look for his biological parents when he turned 18?
He did, not exactly when he was 18, when he was a few years older. I think the mother actually was the one that started reaching out to him. He found out that he has some more siblings.
Okay.
Another thing is that the mother was, from this area. I can't remember if it was Panama City or Pensacola, but was from the area too. So that was another thing. And matter of fact, his biological brother, he went to high school with. He didn't know it.
Oh,
They
wow.
both went to high school, and people used to say y'all look alike. And later on, he found out that it was his biological brother. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. So do he have a relationship with his biological parents now, or
The father, I think, has passed. The mother, he did, but I think they, had some communication issues. So I don't think they're as close now, but once upon a time, he was really. They was she lived in Central Florida somewhere now, and so they was having a communication. But I think he's in contact with some of the siblings, but
Okay.
not necessarily
The mother.
the mother anymore. And their issue with falling out, I don't think it had nothing to do with him being put up with adoption and
Right.
other things. You know how children are.
Oh yeah, I have 3 of my own,
Yeah.
all boys.
Right.
So
Yes.
I understand.
For a while, my son wouldn't even communicate with us.
Yeah,
So you never
I
know.
understand. I understand 110%. So how old was he when you and your wife decided to tell him that he was adopted?
I think he was probably 8 or 9. We had to explain it to
Okay.
him in his own terms.
Right.
Again, it was not anything that we were trying to hide from him or keep from him. We just wanted him to be able to understand when we have a conversation. And then again, we said if he wanted to look for his biological mother, we will wait till he's 18, and then we will help him also to do it.
Right. Well, that was awesome. That was a good thing to do because I know the young lady that I had on that was adopted. She actually knew her parents, and what touched me is because she was, I think she said she was 13 when she got put up for adoption, so she was,
Okay.
old enough,
Yeah.
and she was just telling us, the backstory behind
Yeah.
the reason why and all that. So,
Well, can I share a couple other stories that interested
absolutely.
her? So one of the things was, growing up, I never was around children. So when they called us and say, "Hey, we have a child," and we came and we met our son, and I think we stepped out, and then, what do you think? Yeah, yeah, we want to. So we was able to take him home. So one thing is we didn't have a bed or anything, because we just didn't know, because you were just kind of on a waiting list. And so my wife, the wisdom of God gave her, she took a little drawer and put a little blanket in there and everything. He slept in a drawer the first night we brought him home as a baby. But something funny, so my wife takes me, to the store, and she said, we got to get, milk. So I'm going to get, regular homogenized milk. She said, no, honey, babies don't drink.
No.
And so she took me to the Similac. So me, I handle the finances, and I'm calculating. So I'm looking at the can, and you talking about this is back early '90s. I'm looking at the cans, and I'm calculating. I'm like, okay, and it says 3 servings or whatever. I'm like, I said, man, this is crazy. This is expensive. I said, oh Lord, and so thank God for WIC.
I ain't joking. I ain't joking, because that's Similac, boy. It is definitely up there.
Yeah. And now, I feel for people in 2023 got to buy Similac now, man.
Yes.
So,
Well, I have a 2-year-old. He'll be 3 Sunday, actually on Father's Day.
oh,
And
wow. Yes, I feel for you.
I feel for myself. I said, them pandemic babies don't play. That's a true story.
Right.
So, and he loves milk. Thank God, he's on regular milk.
Okay.
But like you said, thank God for WIC, because
Yeah.
them darn cans,
Yes.
and they don't last.
Well,
Because
true.
especially when they're growing, they drink constant. So,
Yep.
oh Lord, thank God again. So, have any of your family members, have they ever tried to talk you out of it, or how did they feel about the situation about y'all adopting?
Everybody was very receptive. At the time my mom was living, my dad's still living. Uh, they all was receptive. I didn't have any issues, or my wife's parents didn't have any issues, and my mother-in-law. Uh, my mother-in-law is a great woman. I mean, just big heart. And, she loved everybody's children, so everybody just treated him, as he's blood, a part of the family.
Right.
When we go home, my dad always tell my grandson to call him. You know how kids are. Tell my grandson to call me. And so when I was growing up, and I got here via the Navy. That's how I got to Pensacola. And we didn't have cell phone, but I would call my grandmother, periodically, and a lot of times I would get bored and I'd just go home. It was about 6.5 hour drive. And children nowadays, contacting grandparents and stuff like that, they just don't see the importance of it, And so it's sad that we live in that generation, but I guess hopefully later on they'll realize how important family is.
Absolutely.
My son, he has 3 children. I have three grandsons, and so though they are our heart and our joy, so we've got grandchildren, through this adoption of my son and my grandchildren. They're something else. They're 9, 8, and 5.
Oh, I understand. I understand, Lord. So when he was younger, what was a typical weekend for you and your wife?
Typical weekend. Well, my son, like I said, my son was a church baby, so church was like on Sunday was Sunday school, Sunday morning, Sunday evening service. Saturday, it depends. Choir rehearsal, doing some work around the church. I try to do some things with him. As normal kids as much as I could, but with work, and then also I worked on Saturdays too. And with church, I didn't get to spend as much time as I would have liked, with him, growing up. But he understood.
Right.
Again, like I say, he was a church baby. That's all he knew is church. That's all my son knew.
That's good. That's real good. So, will you adopt any age, or would you adopt a teenager, or you just rather adopt?
We wanted a child, a baby. We wanted a baby. We was early in our at the time. See, when we adopted my son, I was I think 26, 27. My wife was 31, 32. My wife 5 years older than me, and so we we wanted a baby. We actually later on we wanted it. Our intention was to adopt a boy and a girl.
Right.
But just the one, the Similac and the diapers, just never got into playing.
That is definitely, like I say, that is definitely understandable. So so far, how has your experience been with the adoption?
The experience has been, it wasn't anything that was complex or hard. They do a thorough background check. They ask a lot of questions. I remember when we first got my son, and we weren't making a lot of money, and I remember I told my wife, go get food stamps, because we have to go get food stamps. And she came back and said they want your high school diploma. They want all this stuff. I said, that's all right.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, I'm not going through. Yeah, I'm not going through all that. I said we'll just depend on God and make do.
Absolutely.
Because they were just trying to ask for too much information, and I started looking at it. It's more like they have control, and I don't like anybody control. And so I try to raise my son up as an example. Being in church, leading him to church, being the one that's the priest of the home, loving his mother, not hitting on his mother, being disrespectful to his mother, respecting his mother and loving his mother. And that's all my son's seen. And again, raised a single parent, I didn't get a lot of this. My dad and my mother, both of them, my mother passed at 14, but both of them been married 3 times. I made a commitment, I wanted to do it one time. We won't have a perfect marriage, and I can't say 2 weeks from now we could get a divorce or something like that. But I'm just saying I'm grateful to God that He allowed us to adopt my son, put him in an environment that was a positive environment, that he had love, he could grow, instill in him values and things like that. So my son, if you look at it, he was really blessed, to be put in the family, different from me, no food, lights cut off, living in the housing projects. So my son didn't have to experience any of that.
That's good. And a lot of I'm glad you're here and you're able to tell your story, give your testimony, because a lot of people go through that and
Yeah.
they're more embarrassed about the situation that they've been in instead of, just rejoicing in it and coming out like you did, just telling their story. They don't
Hmm.
know how many people they can help. Because I guarantee you saying some of the things that you saying will help a lot of people get out that bubble, as in that, being ashamed of what they go through.
Well,
You can't be.
no, Sheila, when I was younger, I was chasing success. As I've gotten older, I'm chasing significance. And my goal is how can I be an impact on my son, on my grandchildren? What type of legacy can I leave for them? And so that's where my mind and my focus is leaving a legacy. Part of that is financial, leaving a
Right.
legacy, generational wealth, but also not just financial, values, principles,
Right.
integrity. I see, and I'm not knocking people, but I see people my age. I'll be 56 next month, and they run in the streets. They should be sitting down somewhere teaching their grandkids values. Making an impact to them to go in and be a productive in society and making a difference, being leaders. And so I just have a different mindset. And,
Right.
and I always, thought like this. Like I said, I came from the projects, in the hood.
Right.
So well, if you took me, dropped me down in, uh, let's say, well, Miami, dropped me in Miami in the projects. I know how to navigate. I
Adapt.
know people.
Right.
Yeah, so I ain't forgot that. So
Right.
now
Right. The
I
hood.
wouldn't go there late at night by myself.
I
Wouldn't
know
be
that's
wise.
what.
But I understand. I'm observing. I know people, and so I'm not ignorant.
Absolutely. I understand that part because I wouldn't even. So, how did you feel comfortable giving directions and providing structure for your adopted child?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, as uh, Denzel said, I'm King Kong up in here, uh, in the training day. So in my house, I mean, I had some challenges when my son got a teenager. Normal challenge. I
Yes.
remember one time, he did something, and I said, "Get to stepping." I used a Martin Lawrence term. Get to stepping,
Right.
and I can't remember what it was, and so I put him out, and so. Then his cousin, he went and stayed there. He was about 16, 17 at the time. And his cousin called and she blah, blah, blah. And I said, uh, she don't want him to stay there. I said, she don't control this house. I said, she can't tell us what to do. So she ended up, for some reason, calling the cops, and the cop came.
Oh wow.
And the cop, he was talking to me, and he said, you can't put him out. He's a minor, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, I'm trying to keep him from you.
Right.
And
Hey,
so,
they don't get that,
right,
and
yeah,
but when they get their own kids, which he have them now, I guarantee he
yep,
understand every
yep,
single thing that you were trying to do. I
yep,
have a teenager too,
right,
so he just turned 13 in
okay,
March, and whew, I be wanting to wring him sometime.
right, yeah. So, him being adopted, even if he was my, came from my blood, it would still been the same. Get the step in,
Exactly.
it would have been no
Exactly.
different. And so,
Exactly.
uh,
It's a learning experience.
yes, yes, yeah, so.
Absolutely.
So he had to follow in my house. He had to follow the rules, and if you didn't like
Absolutely.
them, then you get out.
Hey, that's how they did back then too.
Yes, yes, yes.
So nothing wrong with that. So what makes you a good adoptive parent?
I would just say it has to be God. Just God fearing. The wisdom that God has given me. That was make me a parent. Did I make some mistakes? Yeah, I made plenty of mistakes.
We all have.
Yeah, I wasn't a perfect parent. Like I told you, I wish I could have spent more time. And when you get older, a lot of things you look at and you say it wasn't important. Making money wasn't always important, but at that time, you got to make the money and to support. So he's experiencing some of the stuff that you reap what you sow. So
Uh-huh.
and he got three of them. See, so he gonna get triple issues.
I understand. 'Cause like I said, I got three. I got three boys. All my boys are years apart. My oldest is 20.
Okay.
My middle boy is 13, and my baby is 2. So, and they all boys. So,
Wow.
I mean, I don't know what I did, Lord.
Yeah, and
I
you got yes. You got
I
yes.
do.
Now,
I do.
now, one of the things, like I said, I got three grandboys. We was hoping each whether like the second or third was girls because there's no girls. It's me and my son, and there's three boys, and the children's mother, and then my wife. And so there's no girls. But if they end up having a girl, I know she'll be spoiled. She'll be the baby too, and I know she'd be spoiled because I never had a girl. Just wanted to show her to a little girl.
Well, I feel like on my end, God don't make no mistakes because
True.
I did want the last one to be a girl. I never did want any girls. I always said if I have kids, I want all boys.
Boys, yeah.
And then the last one, people get in your ear and be like, "Oh, if you have a little girl, she'll be so pretty. She'll have your long hair." Da da da. And I was like, "Oh, I wouldn't mind having a mini me."
Yeah.
Nope. When that ultrasound came back and said it was a boy, I cried like a baby. But then I said, "You know what, God, you don't make no mistakes," and I thank Him because I know if I would have had a girl, we would have clashed.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Because it'd been like you said, your mini me, so it'd been a clash.
Yeah. So I think that reap what you sow.
Yeah. Right. Yes. Definitely.
Yeah. That would definitely be me. So, what age do you think is the hardest to adopt?
Probably as teenagers when they get older like that, because the first 1 through 5 is where you can really help shape their personality and their character. And then when they get, teenage years and up, they've formed their own personality and character. And not saying that a person can't adopt a child at that age and can't make an impact. I think it's just a bigger challenge. But those children want love too and want to be part of a family also. Right. And I believe there are parents out there that want older children. They don't want to deal with Similac. They don't want to deal with diapers,
Right.
So I guess that's kind of how I look at it.
Okay. Is there any negative sides to adoption?
The long process and the cost. The process could take a minute, and then someone can come and contest it in the cost. I think that's the downside of the negative side of adoption. And then the other thing is, once you adopt a child, that's your child. If they do something wrong or they go out and do something illegal or something, you can't say, "Oh, they was just my
adopted."
Yeah, no, it's your child.
True. Because once they get your last name and once you sign them papers, that's
That's it.
So do you feel like it's a such thing as depression after adoption?
Yes and no. And I say yes and no. I think it could be depression, even with a natural birth. Women tend to have postpartum depression.
Mm-hmm.
They say it's a thing in men also. I don't know for sure. But one thing I've learned, some of your greatest victories always look at a valley as coming after. So it's a great victory that you got this child and you adopted, but look for the valley to come. So, and in that valley, you can hit depression. And so, I'm a man of faith and a man of faith and believer. And if you know the story of the prophet Elijah, remember he was at Mount Carmel and he defeated 450 to 900 prophets. Chapter later, he depressed because Jezebel wanted to kill him. Great victory. Now you can fell into the valley.
So is there anything that you can let a person know that, or a parent period, that wants to adopt but don't know where to start? What would you tell them?
I would tell them, nowadays we have Google, you have YouTube. You didn't have a lot of that when I was, during my time. There is a lot of misinformation out there. But what I would do is start researching, reading books, articles, YouTube, Google, and then there's things like Legal Shield that a person can get, $35 a month to get the discount when they're going through the adoption process on the fees and different things. I think now you're allowed to take money out of your retirement plan, and not penalized for adoption. I think there's even some things you can write off on your taxes with it. So I would say investigate and look at all that and see, ways that you can cut costs, you can learn, so you'll understand the process. So that would be my recommendation.
Okay, absolutely. So, you can also let everyone know like what platforms they can follow you.
Sure.
Give them your because he also does podcasting as well.
Yeah.
So you can give them your podcast, the name of your podcast, kind of give them like a little
Sure.
rundown of that as well.
So you can find me just about on every social media platform. On Facebook, I'm Troy Holt. Also on LinkedIn, I'm heavily on LinkedIn, Troy Holt. I'm also on Instagram. I have 2 Instagram.
The rest.
Troy Talks and Troy Talks Money on Instagram, also on Twitter. But I do have a website, troyholt.com. That's my business side. And my podcast is thetroytalks.com. That's my podcast. And my podcast, you can find this on Apple, Google, Spotify, my podcast. And it's called Troy Talks.
Okay, absolutely. So guys, go follow Troy. Get into it with him as well. Go look him up on all his platforms and watch his shows. And Troy, I want to thank you so much for being a guest on Rags to Riches. This was awesome. I enjoyed every minute of it.
Awesome. Thank you. And I want to say before we go, if anybody got any questions on any of that, feel free to reach out. We can schedule some time and I'll share all my wisdom. I won't charge you or anything. Just I want to be a help, be a blessing, and add value.
Absolutely.
Thank you again, Sheila.
And thank you so much. So till next time, guys, thank you for watching. Until we meet again, guys. Peace.
The Riches Podcast is a dope podcast that is available on any podcasting platform, including YouTube, Apple, and Spotify podcasting. It's the perfect podcast to brighten your daily mood. It teaches you about motivation and responsibility with financial growth. Check it out today. Smooches. Peace.